This is a dangerous episode today. Today will solidify Andrew from ever being invited to any conferences. And after last episode, he's also banned from every church office in Southeast America. But we have taken.
Good thing I used to live in Texas.
Oh, yeah. Hey, don't do ministry alone. This is Practically Pastoring. We have taken some of your and the internet's hottest church takes and allow the guys to either agree or disagree with the position. And so what we're going to do is I'm going to read a hot take, and then we're going to discuss whether we agree with it, disagree with it, argue with it. Andrew is going to be a contrarian probably. Let's see how this goes. Here's the first one. An At the Movies series is totally fine as long as the church normally preaching rhythm is expositional.
I mean, I guess, but why? Like this At the Movies is just, bro. Speaking of contrarian, I think this At the Movies series, and if you're listening to this and you do At the Movies, take full offense. I think it's so stupid. That's what I think. If we're doing hot takes, like, I don't get it. What are we doing? Why are we doing this? It's so cheesy, dude. Stop doing this. Just do books of the Bible like a normal person. Maybe do the lectionary. But At the Movies, like, what are we trying to be? Anytime I see clips of churches that do At the Movies, I'm just like, you're trying way too hard, and I don't get it. I just don't get it.
Jeff also hates Acts chapter 17 when Paul is referencing culture and poetry.
Here we go.
And Paul couldn't say, he couldn't make an Avengers reference, but he could say in which we move and breathe and have our being, as the poet says. So,
hey, if you want to reference a movie for one sentence in the middle of a sermon, go for it. But if you want to do an entire series where you spend buku bucks for props and look like idiots, also go for it.
I love you, Jeff.
This was supposed to be the hot take episode. I'm here for it.
Del, Andrew, Tim, what are your thoughts?
Yeah, I love how nobody's jumping to defend this take either.
Literally, no. This reminds me. This is like the preaching version of when you see those shirts where they take Coca-Cola and they replace Coca-Cola with like Jesus Saves. Like, no one wants to wear that. That is the church version of it.
They did back in the day.
Exactly. That time, that ship has sailed. I don't think that ship should have ever been built for the church hurt. Yeah, it does leave the church hurt, but it should have been built for the At the Movies stuff. All right. Full disclosure. Full disclosure.
Breadcrumb and fish hit hard though.
I was forced to be in At the Movies. I have PTSD from this thing. The worst ministry thing I've ever been a part of was At the Movies. And you know why we did it? The pastor got in front of the whole church beforehand and he said, hey guys, statistics show if we do At the Movies, we will get a 15% bump in attendance. We need to get the people in here. That's what he said verbatim. And then we did it. At the church is the feces of the seeker-sensitive movement, okay? It is the back end. It is the eunuch of the church movement, okay? Like, I am so, you might get people in church for At the Movies, and you know what they're going to do? They're going to do the same thing we do when we see Christian movies today. What happens when you see the average Christian movie today? What does the average Christian do? Roll their eyes, because it's bad. And when we go off script, being the Bible, and we do At the Movies, it makes Christians want to roll their eyes unless it's an entertainment-based culture.
Listen, I know that my take is probably a straw man argument. I get it. So we could steel man it too. Like, is it possible that an At the Movie series could be done in a really good evangelistic way? Absolutely, it's possible. I just think there's other options. That's like asking, do we have to sing How He Loves in corporate worship? We don't have to. We could sing other songs. And it's just like, I've just seen so many bad examples of At the Movies. I'm just like, I'm not into movies either, so that might be part of it. I haven't seen one of the Marvel Universe movies, and I couldn't care less.
What?
How are you friends with Frank?
That's hilarious.
We relate on other things, I guess. I don't know.
I guess. Hey, it's interesting because
As he has Spider-Man behind him on a wall.
I know, seriously. At the movies is typically like a summer series, but I've seen some churches do it like recently. Like I know like 4 or 5 churches that have done it like pre-Christmas, like right before Christmas.
There's a student who, I say student, I met someone, she was leading worship at a camp I was speaking at a couple summers ago, and we follow each other on the gram. And I think she lives over in Orlando-ish. And this is one of those people that you meet them and you're like, oh, this person is deep. It was a youth camp, but this was a grown up in a 20-year-old's mindset, however many summers ago. And so yesterday I'm doing the thing, going through everybody's stories after service, and she had a picture of her popcorn sitting at church saying, I love my church, and tagged whatever church it was. And I thought, that is not a person that I would expect to be at an inch deep, mile wide church, because she's not. So there are people who enjoy it. There are people who are getting something from it. It's not a preaching style that I use, but I think it's kind of silly to throw something out completely. And there were a lot more seats full in that church than there were in mine yesterday. So
here's the deal. I
don't think you should always judge by attendance, but
sure. And in its heyday of the seeker-sensitive movement, like, this was the thing. When I see this now in 2025, almost 2026, I feel like we're in the wrong era. The vast majority of millennials and Gen Zers that I have spoken to personally are good. Like, they don't need the show. They don't need the, hey, we're going to watch a movie at church. We can watch a movie at home. We can talk about it as a family. That's awesome. I just don't know that we need, I'm kind of with Jeff here. I'm not saying it's inherently sinful, or, I mean, it might be wrong, but I just think there are
that a lot of millennial pastors are leaning into. I think it's
there are other
a
options.
generation or a half generation ahead of us.
I mean, I remember as a kid, when I was in youth group, my senior pastor did a lot of stuff with The Matrix.
Yeah. Because The Matrix is one of the greatest movies ever made.
That's true. I don't disagree with that. I'm just saying it was like using art form, like Andrew was referencing, art and like cultural references. It's just the whole, like, I just feel like at the movies, what I'm thinking of when I think of an at the movie series is like taking that way so far that it's like you built out a whole series, you decorated the whole church. It's just like it's over the top to me. It's like you're trying too hard.
To me, it presents as a parachurch organization event. It's in a different context. Maybe it doesn't give the same light, but when you, as the sacred time of worship where the believers are supposed to come together and edify the Lord, like that just presents as something that's not church. And that's probably, if you were to ask the seeker, well, that's what we're going for. We don't want it to feel like church, so we can get these people in here. I tend to lean into, that Spurgeon quote, if you win people with a carnival, you must continue having a carnival to keep them. Whereas I'm more like, I think we need to be authentic to who God is, what the scripture is, and what actual preaching is. So I'm not a fan of canceling things that God put in place. I mean, he kind of set up how church should be. So I think there's space for creative liberty. I just think I'm kind of with Tim, and like, this is just a really bad take on culture, especially Christian culture.
I think you could have any of the questions we're going to talk about today, you could have an interesting conversation about regulative versus normative principles too.
100%.
Kind of what we're getting at without saying it.
I just want to imagine what R.C. Sproul going on this pulpit and be like, hey, we're talking about Finding Nemo today. I think that would be like,
hey, the hero's journey in Finding Nemo, though, that's legit.
That would rule. Hey, but hey, let's transition real quick. I want to hear not about a movie, but about the Practically Pastoring Conference. Tim, talk to us about it.
Hey, speaking of at the movies, if you want the real blockbuster event of 2026,
I see what you did there.
You got to be at the Practically Pastoring Conference. There may not be any CGI, not a lot of explosives, but there will be about 5 pastors, that's us, trying their absolute best not to get canceled on stage. We'll see what happens. It's February 9, 10, and 11, 2026. And if you're in ministry and you're just kind of tired of doing this thing alone, we want you there. We want to walk alongside you. We are your people. So come laugh, come learn, and realize your church is actually probably doing a little bit better than you thought once you hear all of our stories. So hop online now. You can register for the Practically Pastoring Conference at practicallypastoring.com/conference. Join us.
We have another hot take, and it's one that someone like told me, like, hey, Lakeview should do this, Cross and Crown should do this in the future, and it's getting brought up a lot, and I'm starting to see more and more churches do this. So here's the hot take: if a church truly cares about its volunteers, giving them the Sunday after Christmas off is the right move. So what this means is the Sunday after Christmas, you have what people are calling Sabbath Sundays. There's no church services. Maybe you can do church at home with like a pre-tape something, but there's no in-person services on Sunday morning between Christmas and New Year's.
I would add the caveat: the Christmas after Christmas, or the Sunday after Christmas Eve, because if
Yes.
Christmas Eve is on Saturday and Christmas morning is Sunday, this happens too.
Yep.
Whatever the Sunday is that typically the youth pastor preaches on, if that makes sense. So, Delmar, do you agree with this take or not?
Well, nothing says Sabbath rest like canceling the Sabbath, right? Let's just do away with it and you can stay home. Obviously, you're going to know my position. I think this is one of the things. I think this is one of the things that the Lord initiated. He defined the parameters of church. I think you could take that same hermeneutic and you could say, well, we can now redefine what marriage is. We don't get to redefine what God has redefined. So I think if your volunteers are so burnt out that they need the Sunday after Christmas off, then chances are you either don't have enough volunteers, you have too much production in your church. But two of those things are things you as the leader need to work on well before Christmas. Like, we need to have more volunteers. I wouldn't cancel it. I think that we can run a leaner ship that Sunday, maybe let the kids sit in church, right? Make it a special celebratory Sunday. But the last thing I would do is take off the whole church. I understand pastors go through season. This isn't saying that the pastor can't take a Sunday off. I'm not saying that at all, because we understand the rhythm of that. But to cancel the church for everybody, I'm going to be honest. Sometimes churches cancel the entire service because really the staff wants off, and who's the one who hurts? It's the whole body. It's our responsibility to have worship. That may be a hot take for some, but that's just kind of where I sit with it. We didn't define it, so we don't get to change it.
I mean, my take on this is it's kind of a pretty bad misunderstanding of Sabbath. And my understanding of Sabbath is not, I'm not saying I have like a super well-defined deep, but that's like not the heart of what Sabbath is supposed to be. So I think this idea of giving us a Sunday off it's just a misguided question. I think it's asking the wrong question. I agree with Delmar, maybe doing a simplified Sunday, just for the practical reason that, like, in a small church like mine, a lot of people travel. And in small churches, typically what happens is you have some Sundays where people come to visit and some Sundays where those families go to visit. And in a small church, you really notice it. So 2 Sundays ago, we had like 65 people, which is pretty good for us. And then yesterday it was like 42 because people were traveling. And if like 3 families travel, it's like a big chunk of the congregation. So on that Sunday after Christmas Eve, I think, one thing we're probably going to do this year is, I think, Andrew, your church did this, and I came one year, where you just basically have a big breakfast and kind of a devotional in the hall, and then like maybe a couple of acoustic songs, and that's probably what we're going to do. And all the kids just stay with us. We won't have as good a cinnamon rolls as Andrew does, but it's a great idea. You still worship. I even was convicted a couple years ago when Christmas was on a Sunday morning, and we weren't going to have service. And then a couple of the older saints came and were like, hey, Pastor, and it wasn't guilt. It wasn't shame. They were just like, man, we just really want to be together. Can we just like get together and just sing a few Christmas carols and maybe have just like some prayer time? And I was like, you know what? Yes, we can. So we did. I just don't I don't understand how you can get to the place where you want to not be together. In fact, I was talking to somebody today, and they were telling me, I don't remember what we were talking about, but he was telling me, when I lost my job recently, man, there's nothing I wanted to do but come to church. I couldn't wait for Sunday because it was like I get to be around people who, bless me and make me feel good and are kind of like pursuing God like I am. And so I just couldn't wait to be at church on Sunday when I was at that place. And I kind of feel like that should be the attitude of most of us most of the time, that we see church as this valuable expression of community. And so, like, why would I want to take it off?
We did this a few years ago at Lakeview. Sorry, Del. We did this a few years ago. We actually did take the Sunday off. It was the Sunday you're talking about, Jeff, where it fell on Christmas, and I was miserable. Like I didn't like it. I heard from our people like, man, we really kind of missed a moment here where we could have, you could still do Christmas morning with your family and then do Christmas morning with your church family. It doesn't happen often. It would have been a really special moment, and we're not going to do that again. I'm all for your advice, Del. Hey, volunteers, we're gonna go a little bit slimmer. And we are doing that this year at Lakeview. We are not having kids ministry the Sunday after Christmas Eve. It's a family Sunday. It'll be all kids and families in service together. But getting to the place where it's like, we're good, we don't need to be here on Sunday is really, really difficult for me. We did it one time and I've regretted it ever since.
That's the argument I've always heard too, is the family argument.
Yeah, I totally get it. And if we want to give, and the question here is, giving volunteers a break, absolutely. Let them just come and worship. We don't have to do all the extra stuff that Sunday, but I think the gathering of the saints is vital to who we are.
I think it is us saying, look how important I am. Look how important my sermon is. If I'm not preaching, no one wants to come.
Right.
And that's, I got a news flash for you. That's not why they're coming. There might be some people that come for a week or so because they like the way that you preach better than somebody down the street. But if that's why they're coming, you're in big trouble. And when we say, oh, I'm going to take the Sunday off, we're saying, well, what I do, and, this show we put on, Del, you were talking about the production. We say that's the important thing. That's why people are coming, and we don't want to do that this week. That puts things way out of the proper context for where they're supposed to be.
Mm-hmm.
And so, again, whether it's Youth Pastor Sunday or if it's we we're going to do a 20-minute more of a devotional than a full sermon. We call it our Go Tell It on the Mountain Sunday because we end with Go Tell It on the Mountain, that one, because it's here's respond to the Christmas story. And so as a church, we eat every week. We have our regular service, then we go to the fellowship hall and we have whatever it is that people have brought in that week. On that Sunday, we eat before. And so instead of the service starting at 10 and then food starting kind of like 11:10, 11:15, we say, everybody get your plate at 10. We're going to be eating during the message. And I think we're usually out by 10:50. It's a shorter service. It's just acoustic. So we don't have any of our volunteers on the praise team. So it's just our worship team and staff and me who are having to put in any work. And it's not that much work. And
it's probably the same stuff from last year, guys.
Yeah. It's not that much work, and it's not as well attended, but the people that are there, I mean, it is, my family is leaving Christmas Day to visit my wife's family up in Arkansas. So we're missing the Fellowship Hall Sunday this year. And I'm bummed. I mean, it is my favorite Sunday of the year. Last year, my family was up in Arkansas. I flew home for 21 hours to be a part of that service and then come back because I had just missed a couple weeks in a row and I didn't want to miss another one. So, I mean, it really is my favorite Sunday service that we have all year. And I think there's a whole lot of value in having these stripped down, less frills, but body of Christ coming together service.
And if you have multiple services, it might be a Sunday where you say, hey, you know what? We're only going to have one or two services. I mean, I think at Lakeview, we've talked about that. We might not need the 8 a.m., but Jeff, your take is real. We see this at our church too, with people visiting or going to visit, especially around the holidays. And they're really excited to bring their kids or their grandkids and their family to church and to see, what they get to experience.
And depending on how many days it was between Christmas and that Sunday, it's like, it might be only a couple days and family's in town and let's go to church together. And then it's like, nah, never mind.
But also, if you have older people in your church, this impacts them in a very disproportionate way.
Mm-hmm.
You know, if it's we want people to be able to stay home with their families. Well, what if someone lives alone?
Right.
What if someone lives alone and they didn't have a place to be on Christmas?
I think it exposes the idolatry of family, just like youth sports does.
Oof, Jeff, you're on fire today.
It's interesting, Andrew, at your little church in the fellowship area thing. Do you allow people wear pajamas to church?
Some for that Sunday, there are families that will show up in their matching Christmas pajamas.
I think that's a cute idea.
I wouldn't respect the dads.
Next hot take. If your church live stream is just a wide shot of the stage, you don't actually care about the people watching at home.
Okay, here's the deal. This is going to differ depending on your context. If you are doing the absolute best you can, and you know you have some people who can't make it, and they need that live stream, and the best you can absolutely do is a wide shot of the stage,
iPhone in the back of the room.
I say you made an effort. Your people who, for whatever reason, wanted to be there but couldn't, because again, the live stream is not the first option. It's the backup. It's for someone who can't make it. It's for someone who's unwell, who just can't get out. You made an effort. I'm proud of you. Is it difficult to go with a better setup? It's not difficult, and it requires some prep. I'm not saying you don't care about the people watching at home. I think if you're making an effort for the people who can't make it, I think that's the right call. Now, can you put in a little bit of time and a little bit of money? It's not that difficult to have it. When we first moved to the live stream setup at Lakeview, we were maybe at 100 people. We were able to pull this off with, under $1,000 budget, 2 camera setup, 1 wide, 1 tight. I'm a fan of the tighter shot just because it feels more personal. When you're too far into the back of the room, you feel like a fly on the wall. So I understand the dynamics of the live stream. I have a side business where I literally live stream things, so I get that. And we want people to feel like they're a part of, not just in the back of the room. However, I will say, if you're making an effort, I think that's going to go a long way for the people who are unable to be there with you in person.
But it's not that hard and it's not that expensive.
I know.
I mean,
I hear you.
I think we were 75 people in person yesterday, and again, it's something that I have a natural proclivity towards. But if you are struggling with this, reach out to me and I will tell you how you can do it for $150, $200. There's you need a camera with a clean HDMI out and something to get your camera into into your computer. It's not very tricky. Post COVID, the Tim and my live stream setup for podcasting was a couple $100 pre-COVID, and then when COVID hit, we just laughed as the prices dropped and dropped and dropped. Now, if you are an Apple user and you've got continuity cam as an option, you've got a 4K camera, and so you're not broadcasting in 4K. So you could have a digital zoom.
Mm-hmm.
You could use OBS and continuity camera and have a wide shot and a tight shot just with the same iPhone. And you need one volunteer to click one tab on OBS to change camera settings.
Now, I would say if you're just kind of copping out here and you have the setup and you're not utilizing it to the best of your abilities, that's on you. Like, don't be lazy. If you have the setup and you can make it look good, then make it look good. Like, let's not just go halfway. Like, everything we do should be our absolute best for the Lord.
And make it sound decent too. Like that's the biggest thing. That's the biggest thing. Me and my drummer, we listen back to the live stream every week. And it's like last week, you're like, oh man, we could hear the click coming through. Like, so it's a constant struggle, but it's something we tweak every week. We work on every week. And I mean, I would just say in to continue what you guys said, like you have the tools, but I would say if you're going to worry about audio or video, worry about the audio. Like, I would rather have an iPhone in the back of the room with audio plugged into it that's reasonably decent than to have a really, really great picture and like the mic is in the back of the room and you can't hear anything. I think that serves the people better if that's what we're talking about.
I'm the camp. The live stream should be good enough so you can know what you missed, but still feel like you missed it. You know what I'm saying? Like I don't want to ever be using as an excuse to not go to church. We do a really good stream at our church, I feel like. And the way we do it, we do it in post-production. We record everything live the day of, 4K, really good audio. then I edit it. We stream it out on Tuesdays. So that way they are getting the best thing. You can eliminate if something really bad happens during the service. There's no pressure that sometimes comes from a tech team trying to run a live stream if you're not a big deal. And then you can make sure what's getting out to the people is much better quality. There's no reason you couldn't even explore other options. No one says your live stream has to be during the service. For me, when you have to wait till Tuesday to watch it, you're like, man, I feel like I'm, like you're not the guy who's, subbed on Patreon and gets the videos early. You're the guy who gets them late. You should come to church. You know what I'm saying? Get in the conversation early. So I feel like live stream is a useful tool. I think Brady Shear has also released some statistics that live stream doesn't really get anybody in your church. There's no church bump. Don't look at it as an evangelistic tool. If anything, live stream is like your new website. People generally go to your website just to see if you can make a web page, and if you look presentable, maybe read your doctrine. But I would not put more weight, effort, or money in a live stream near as much as you would your actual service. And for heaven's sake, man, churches, stop counting your live stream views in your attendance. That is just sad. That's my little hot take on that.
Take.
Because without the online numbers, Andrew actually had 43 in attendance.
That's hurtful, but I appreciate you thinking that we are reaching that many people online. But no, as a church with older people, I think you have to know your context.
Yep, same. I'm in the same boat, Andrew.
We have, Tim and I have long said, being in Florida, it's not, yes, there is some of the, my kid's got a club soccer tournament, so I'm going to be watching online. There's some of that, sure, but there's way more of my husband's in the hospital.
Yeah.
And I can't be there. The number of things that we hear from people in their 70s and 80s, who, by the way, are killing it on Facebook. The reason that we still do Facebook and YouTube is because we figure our stats are the YouTube people are watching on TVs.
Yep,
so
same.
You've got the
Yes.
You can tune in on YouTube on a TV. So if there's 2 or 3 people at home watching on a couch that's on YouTube, but the people watching on their phones or their tablets are a lot of the older people who, we had a lady in our church die on Friday, and her family was commenting on the live stream how grateful they were that we were praying for them as a church and stuff. So there's all of these conversations are nuanced, which is why sometimes hot takes that are black or white are kind of dumb, because a lot of these things, the unique environment of a specific church needs to be discussed, and what's good for one church isn't good for another.
And Andrew, I got an email yesterday from an older church member who said there's a lot of family drama right now, and they were unable to make it, but just wanted to say thanks for putting out the live stream. Like, still all these years later, we still get the thank you emails for those who are unable to make it for whatever reason but can still tune in.
We do have our big dinner of thanks every year, and there was a family who at the dinner of thanks, they said, we are so thankful that this church that isn't huge and doesn't have unlimited resources puts time and energy into the live stream, because they do work in a remote village in Alaska for 4 or 5 months out of the year.
Wow.
And so what keeps them connected to us instead of one of the other, they could go to Elevation Online or some church with good production value instead of a 2-camera shot. But that was not something that I was expected to be shared at the dinner of thanks. Hey, what are you really thankful for this year? Was our decent sound quality 2-camera setup live stream.
Along with the shut-ins is the caregivers of the shut-ins too. Sometimes we have that where it's like one of my core families who's part of the founding of this church, actually, older couple. The wife recently fell and hurt herself, and so the husband is basically he has to stay home with her or she'll get up and walk, and she's not supposed to. So he's been watching online, and I love the guy, but sometimes he'll text me in the middle of the service when I don't look at my text messages about, hey, can you turn the mic up a little, as if I can do anything about it. It's awesome. I would say one thing to be careful of, if you are a smaller church, and I know there can be a temptation to try to make your church look bigger than it is with your live stream. I think that's a fool's errand. If you're I'm going to go spend money on expensive equipment and get the lenses and the cameras so that we get the shots like Elevation, so when people see us online, because they're going to walk in on a Sunday and then they're going to be like, what? So our goal with the live stream is it kind of like our goal with excellence for the worship team is like, it's got to be good enough that it's not distracting. And we should be trying to hit the ceiling of the talent level of who we are as a church. We're a small church. We don't want to communicate that we're bigger than we are. It's pretty clear on our live stream that we're a small church, but it's still pretty nice quality. You know, when you look at, we have a wide shot and a tight shot, and the audio quality is pretty good. So I think, you know, make it not distracting, but don't try to look like something you're not.
Let's go on to the next question. I don't know if there's going to be like, so far there really hasn't been much like diversity in hot takes in terms of like amongst you guys, but let's see if there's a difference here. Most pastors who say they're against the multi-site are actually just jealous they don't have the problems that come with being that big. Andrew, what do you think?
I think we just spent 10 minutes talking about live stream. So how are you pro live stream and anti multi-site? Or how could you be multi-service and be anti multi-site? I get some of the arguments against multi-site. And again, we're a church of under 100 people. So if anyone would be no, this is what the church is supposed to look like, there's context. Context matters. And there are some churches that are going to do multi-site really well. There are some churches that are going to do multi-site poorly. But I think a lot of, if you are against multi-site, you better also be against multi-service and against, any other video form of communication. Or if you're multi-site, we've got a church in our area that is a multi-site church with live preaching every Sunday in each of them. And so they're two distinct congregations. So they're only multi-site when it comes to elders and HR stuff. So
they're like a mini denomination.
Yeah, they're a 2-congregation denomination.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
I think what's funny is that the actual hot take itself,
I agree with that take,
is an ad hominem attack, and it sounds like it's a guy who is pro multi-site who got a reasonable critique and is just now attacking the person who gave him the critique. I think what's interesting is I've never heard an argument I've never heard an argument against multi-site that comes from a normative principle background. It always comes, in my experience, I've only ever heard that critique come from somebody who adheres to the regulative principle, that if we don't see it in the scripture, if it's not ordained by God, then we don't do it. So I would really be interested to hear somebody give an argument against multi-site, like that it's inherently wrong, from the perspective of we're allowed to do things unless they're explicitly deemed sinful. So, because I've only ever heard this argument from like the 9 Marks crowd, and they tend to be more regulative, where it's like we only do things that are prescribed in the scripture, and they make an argument that only one service and one gathering is prescribed in the scripture. And I think, first of all, it's a secondhand issue. It's not like worth breaking fellowship over, in my mind. But I mean, I don't have an issue inherently with multi-site. I have an issue with bad multi-site examples that lead to celebrity pastor problems, but that's the same critiques I would have of mega churches. So, and I'm definitely, I don't think I'm jealous. I don't feel jealous.
Yeah, I don't have any jealousy. I'd say it's a way, not the way, and I don't have any issues with multi-site churches. It's a model, and it can be helpful and beneficial. My biggest critique is what you just said, Jeff. It's the rise of celebrity pastor culture. I think it has fed into that culture.
And so many of those multi-site churches take off the Sunday after Christmas Eve.
Ooh. And I think a lot of guys see that as like it's almost like a status symbol. Like, I'm a multi-site pastor. I've been in rooms with people that are like that, and it's just like, cool. I mean, I'm glad you're reaching a lot of people. I really am.
In a lot of ways, it's the new youth ministry stepping stone. It's if I want to work at a big church, it used to be if I want to get a job as a pastor, I got to be a youth pastor for 5 years, and then I'll become an associate pastor, and then I'll become whatever. And now it's if I ever want to preach on the big stage, I have to be a campus pastor of the church that has the big stage. And newsflash, those guys are not getting the jobs as the primary communicator anywhere. I don't want to reference anybody who's on a podcast with me now, but some of my closest ministry friends are former multi-site campus pastors,
Dude.
and they have some of the strongest opinions of multi-site of anybody, probably because it's not a healthy work environment. I'm not saying it's a wrong church environment, but more times than not, pastors are not trained in HR, nor should we be. But I don't think it creates a healthy work environment for a lot of pastors. But that's not the issue. Is not in the model. The issue is in the leadership structure there, I think.
From the outside looking in, it seems like it creates weird authority structures and like people answering to people. That's seems odd to me, but I don't know.
Ooh, hey, you get to preach 3 times this year. Don't worry, you can preach whatever you want as long as it's these 4 verses and you make these 3 points. But other than that, you get to preach whatever you want.
I've been in the belly of the beast, and I think one thing I would just say is I am more of a
Wait a minute, you can't be more. You either are regulative or you're not.
Okay, then yes, I am. I was trying to spare your feelings, but I think working in the multi-site environment locked me in that much more. One of the things I've noticed, and there again, like we said, this is individualistic, but a lot of times, I can't even say a lot of times. I can speak to my context. A multi-site can very well be a vanity project for a lead pastor. Even while I was in the church, the people who were a part of the multi-site thing I was in even said that, hey, we're a part of the church's, the pastor's vanity project. We're going to make it like, so we have to be very careful because this thing can nick into our soul. I would be willing to ask this question. If celebrity pastor wasn't a thing, how many multi-site churches would we have? Because it seems like that's an end to a means to gain more authority and clout in the community. There is a space for it to be the gospel. But I think if you're looking at that, I would lean much more heavily into where Tim is with the planting model. Our church that I worship at every Sunday is a benefactor of that. Obviously, Frank's going to be seeing that. And that is a humble release of authority, which is more consistent with scripture, correct? Like it's a humble release and an empowerment and an equipment. Whereas a multi-site, it could come across more as building a brand than building the kingdom. Now, if we're going to call it a denomination, well, that's different, okay? Because oftentimes these multi-sites are run like a denomination, but I dare say if you're going to be a part of that, just go be a part of a denomination because they have hundreds of years of experience where the multi-site phenomena is new and is fresh. And I'm going to tell you, it is difficult from an HR perspective to operate in that environment and have good relationships. I know we like to sing the praises and make it look good and it's shiny. I'm in the South. There's a lot of multi-site stuff around here. But as someone who's been in it, I mean, that is a hard thing to do. And unless the main campus is really good at being considerate, and unless the multi-site campus is really good at being gracious towards the main, you can't make it work. So yeah, I mean, it's a little bit of a hot take, but I do think we need the biggest air I'd have on it is, man, it really easily can become a vanity project, if not for the pastor, for the whole church. We're going to make our church 100,000 people. You know what I'm saying?
On the Practically Pastoring Network, we have this great podcast called What is a Campus Pastor, all about navigating and talking to campus pastors from various kinds of models of multi-site church. But this is interesting. It's interesting to hear everyone's thoughts about this. Some of y'all said stuff I didn't expect, which is good. It's good content. Hey, let's go to question number 5, or hot take number 5. A lot of we're just being faithful and God will bring who he wants is actually spiritualized laziness about evangelism and marketing. Jeff, what do you think?
I mean, I guess it could be. I don't know. Not if you're a Calvinist, I think. But I mean, the only thing I struggle with in here is the idea of marketing that feels kind of worldly to me. I get evangelism, but marketing in the church it's just like those two categories don't really fit together because they have different ends. I realize that I'm making a hot take on the idea of marketing being worldly, but if your goal is to get people in your building, I think you can use marketing. If your goal is to make disciples and it's long-term discipleship, I think marketing is probably the wrong word for it. I do think that there can be an element of laziness, yes, when you're not seeing disciples make disciples, and people reach out to their own neighbors and friends and family. It can be either laziness, or it could be that you don't want to deal with a critique of the way that you're teaching your people and training your church. I think that's probably more what it is. It's a way to defend yourself as the pastor from going, the reality is in leadership, the organization reflects the leader. After a certain amount of time, that's just the truth of it. If you're the head of a business, you're the pastor of a church, you're the head coach of a team, whatever the culture of that thing is, it trickles down from the top on some level. The buck does stop with you. So if you are not having any kind of evangelism happen, and I think you have to be careful there, because what does that mean? Does that mean you're going door to door with pamphlets from the church, or does that mean people are sharing their faith organically? It could be either of those. It could be both of those. I think a lot of the we're being faithful, the faithful, fruitful like conversation, I think a lot of it is not maybe laziness, but it's more a defensiveness from pastors about I am personally not maybe evangelizing people, and so that's not trickling down, and I'm also not teaching it, so that means I'm going to have to change what I'm doing, and a lot of us don't like to change what we're doing. It also could be that you don't have a clear vision and mission, and you're not communicating it well, and so I don't know if it's laziness or more just resistance to being critiqued.
I think this is a yes and. I think both of
Yeah.
these things can be true at the same time. And well, it's a question that I ask myself all the time. Hey, is this who we are? Is this who God has called us to be? Or am I being lazy? It's difficult when you see your best friend's church a few miles up the road just booming, and makes me kind of hate Tim a little bit sometimes, but that's besides the point. But also, the largest church I've ever served at had the weakest preaching of any church I've ever been on staff at. So sometimes the Holy Spirit is going to move and do what the Holy Spirit does. And sometimes someone's going to come in with really good systems in place, and, and magic is going to happen. So I think it's kind of like, you can never be overdressed or overeducated, that kind of principle. So I never want to show up and be unprepared for whatever it is. I think you can say, hey, I'm going to do my diligence. I'm going to do the work that God has called me to do. I'm going to study. I'm going to prepare. I'm going to treat people the right way. And if God wants to bless this and bring in 100 new people this year, then praise God. But if God wants to bless this and bring in 3 new people this year, well, then praise God for that too. I think this is the church equivalent of the man readies the horse for the battle, but the victory is the Lord's. It's not just laziness, or it's not just effort that's going to bring about any type of church revitalization or cultural revitalization within your community. It's what God is going to do, but you need to be prepared for what it is that God's going to be doing in your community. So prepare yourself, do the work that you need to do in case God shows up and does something big and powerful.
Andrew.
I would say, as someone who did go through a revitalization at my current church, there is work that we will have to put in. Like God has called us to work hard, and we should work hard.
And there are times right now where I'll get off the phone with you and be like, man, he's working so much harder than I am right now.
But I think the answer here is being faithful. Like I don't think you are being lazy if you are truly being faithful and stewarding what God has blessed you with. That means stewarding the people that God has blessed you with, stewarding the property that God has blessed you with. A big part of our revitalization at Lakeview was just taking care of the building and property that was falling apart.
Yeah.
It took 4 years to get our space back up into the way it should have been, because we had neglected it for so long. And some of it was just utilizing our people the way they needed to be utilized, because God was blessing us with the right people at just the right time. So when you think about time, talent, and treasure, part of our faithfulness as pastors is to make sure we are unleashing our people to do what God has gifted them to do. And some of that was, I had some gifted leaders that were way more gifted in areas that I was not, and we just unleashed them and they were able to shine. God chose to bless that and honor that, and we have seen tremendous growth at Lakeview. I will say we didn't do a lot of traditional marketing. It just wasn't part of our strategy. Am I against it? No, I've got like best friends in ministry who love all of the Facebook ads they can possibly gobble up. That's awesome. It just wasn't part of the direction we were headed. So I don't think you have, it's not a make or break argument for me when it comes to that word marketing. I'm kind of with you, Jeff. It feels odd. I think we can still, tell our community about who we are and when we meet and why we think you should be part of our gathering. That's all good stuff. But I don't think we have to lean on a marketing strategy in order to see the church growth. I think if we're being faithful with what God has blessed us with, we're going to see the Lord do what only the Lord can do.
Andrew, I would love to hear your thoughts about our sponsor, Church Merch.
You know what isn't lazy? Looking good on Sunday. And that's why you need church merch. If your current shirts look like they were printed at a middle school field day, it's time to level up. Church merch can take your logo, your vision, your inside jokes, whatever it may be, and turn it into apparel that your people will actually wear in public and will love. Don't be a "we're just being faithful" t-shirt church. Be a church merch church. Visit promotionsguy.com/church merch for all of your church merch needs. Mugs, shirts, booklets, tote bags, you name it. They have them all over at Church Merch.
Okay, so I have was it five more questions and 5 more hot takes, and we got to do rapid fire. We got to get them fast. All right, so I'm gonna read the hot take. I want to hear a person tell me if they agree or disagree with it, and then someone else can respond either with the opposite take
lightning
or the
round.
reinforce. Yeah, lightning round. All right, here we go. Number 6. Most family integrated services are just an excuse to not build a robust kids ministry. Delmar, the most influential kids director I know, tell me what your thoughts are on this.
Bold take, because nearly 2,000 years of Christians worshiping together was actually just poor planning.
Well
I think
done, Del. Wow.
I'm just saying.
That was great.
Was that rapid fire enough? I think the sooner you can get your kids in church, the better. I think creating a robust children's ministry actually could impede the discipleship of your children. Your children need to learn to sit in church. They often go to school and sit in little 30-minute lessons about the alphabet and stuff. They can listen beside mom and dad and Jesus. They're also learning from them how to be in church together. I think if you want to not have your kids in church, that says something about the discipleship.
And if you don't want your kids in church when they're 7, you're not going to have them in church when they're 19.
Oh, snap. Vadi Bakum over here. Rest in peace.
Hey, let's get our kids in church as often as possible. It is not a cop-out for kids ministry. It is faithfulness.
And a noisy church is a good church.
I love it.
Let them scream, let them cry.
We just had somebody leave our church because they wanted our kids ministry to go up to 12 years old. And we said, no, our kids ministry, when the first week a parent drops them off, we say, we love having your kid here. Our goal is to equip your child to sit with you on Sunday. If you can get them out of here early, you are winning as a parent.
All
we
right,
are winning
next
as a
hot
church.
take.
Wait,
If
Frank, you have not answered one hot take all day. What's going on? Has anybody else noticed that?
It's because I'm the host, and I'm driving this.
He doesn't want
this
anyone
Wow.
to know his opinions.
Yeah, because I'm a big multi-site pastor that does at the movies that doesn't want to
That
offend
thinks
anybody.
Kids should be out of the service.
Yeah, get the
Get 'em
kids
outta
out of
here.
there.
As long as they
smell
don't
bad.
impact the camera shot, he's fine.
That's right.
Wow.
Exactly.
Don't mess up my live stream, kids.
Give me 7 cameras. One of them needs to be on a moving. Jeff knows what they're called.
A boom camera.
All right. Question 7,
Steadicam.
or hot take 7. If your church has no female voices on the stage except for singers and occasionally people who do announcements, you're catechizing your people about women, whether you admit it or not.
Absolutely
Tim.
dumb take. Why would female singers not count as females as part of your service? Like, I don't understand this at all. Like, this just doesn't make sense to me.
Well, there's an assumption in this hot take that you're catechizing people and you don't want to. If you're very complimentarian, you might want to catechize people this way. And I don't mean that as a negative thing. That's part of your theology. All right. Good hot take.
All right.
Yeah,
Interesting.
I've got nothing to add. I'm
Interesting.
in the most egalitarian church of any of those represented here, and I think this is a silly take.
It's a bad take.
Okay.
Let people hold
All right.
microphones, let people pray, let them do whatever. But I don't think you're catechizing anybody. You just have two people on stage in leadership roles one way or another that you're discussing here. So, yeah.
All right. Next hot take. Pastors who refuse to delegate aren't being faithful. They're being insecure. Andrew, tell me your thoughts on this.
First of all, my feelings are hurt that you chose me to do this. There are some things that can be delegated, and there are some things that you're better at than everybody else. And
Like counting people.
listen, I'm not counting very high, guys. There's my wife is involved with the kids' men, so I can tell how many kids are there based on how many heads are there. Sure. I wouldn't say I'm being insecure. I'd say I'm being lazy because it's going to take me an hour to.
You don't sound insecure at all right now.
It's going to take me an hour to train somebody else what I can do in 15 minutes.
This is not a hot take. This is an accurate take. We should be giving away as much as possible and equipping our people to do what God has called them to do.
Give people the important roles and
give them the unimportant roles too.
And sometimes that means you taking on the less important thing. I'm also not afraid to not delegate grabbing the plunger if someone needs to do it, because there are some things that I know where.
Andrew, hand the plunger away.
All right. The next time it's needed, I'm like, sorry, guys. Someone on a podcast told me
it's time to delegate.
I'm not allowed to take care of this problem anymore. So
delegation also includes training. So if you're really good at plunging, train somebody, Andrew. Do it.
Oh, that's a good take.
Andy Stanley did teach me to replace myself in the 7 practices of effective ministry.
I actually feel like I'm in a season of this right now. Like I'm giving things away that I've been doing here for all 8 years to people who have expertise in it. So it's like it's a weird change, but it's happening.
Love it.
I mean, I think Andrew looks as good as he looks right now because he hasn't delegated. He's burning so many calories, plunging, counting, taking money to the bank.
Dude, his right shoulder, his front delt is so strong from going 1, 2, 3.
From pointing and bouncing.
I would like to say for the record that I don't even know where our bank is. I've never taken anything
for you.
I think it's a problem. I don't think that's
for you.
A good thing.
I'm okay with that.
I don't.
There will never be an accusation against you.
I will never touch a penny.
I'm with you.
I can't pronounce Lakeview's bank. I have a
Synovus.
card,
it's not that hard.
Yeah, there's a lot of.
We just switched
to
Achieve a credit union.
All right, no one cares. This is such a localized take. All right, here we go. Next one.
Hot take. No one cares what bank you use.
Most church hurt stories are real, but half of them could have been avoided if pastors followed up faster and communicated clearer.
Most church hurt stories are real? Yeah, right. Like a third of them might be real. Dude, I got my own church hurt stories, so they're a real thing, but I think more than half of the ones that I've heard are just people who don't want accountability. That's my hot take. And I think a lot of them could not have been avoided because no matter what happened, people wanted what they wanted. And if you don't cave to them and pander, they gone and they're going to talk about you. And you're just going to have to deal with it as part of the office. That's my hot take.
Yep. I think church hurt is people not getting their way. And now they have a special word they can use to claim some kind of moral high ground. I think the word church hurt is a therapeutic term that we shouldn't use. If it's sin, call it sin so you can deal with it. If you call it church hurt, that's some nebulous term. The Bible doesn't speak about church hurt. So we call it sin. It's always sin, right? It's either I've been sinned against or I'm not getting my way, so I'm leaving sin.
But I think we should name things for what
Facts.
they are. You don't get to recreate the label of whatever church hurt you want to have. And as someone who came on here and talked about the Reggie Joiner and Orange situation a few episodes ago, listen, I get that what that guy did was very wicked and sinful, but you can't call that clergy sexual abuse because he used to be a pastor. That is a legal definition, and you don't get to apply it to whatever you want. So because somebody made you mad at church, you don't get to call that church hurt because, someone didn't email you back as fast as you want, or because you sinned and your church didn't accept it. Like, why do you think you get to make up your own terms to define why your feelings are hurt? Come on.
Also, whatever happened
better
to you that you define as church hurt and it was 25 years ago,
No, that's you're being lazy and you don't want to go back to church because you don't want to sit under somebody else's authority.
It should not be your entire identity for the rest of your life that you got hurt by a church.
We also go over this in membership class because there needs to be clear communication on both sides. Here's what's expected of you as a member, and here's what you can expect of us as your church family, because I think a lot of this is just poor communication, and there's expectations that aren't met on both sides that need to be clearly described. And if you go through a membership process, this can be talked about and questions can be answered, and you can avoid a lot of quote unquote church hurt.
I feel like the way Andrew, Dell, and Jeff just spoke, there's going to be like the rise and fall of practically pastoring, and there's going to be like these like sound bites are going to be pulled from here, and then like someone who's really hurt was like, yeah, it was after I heard Andrew say that I had to come forward and tell the elders about the way he yelled
Hang
at
on.
me.
Being that I was just talking about clergy sexual abuse, please do not, please clarify what you are saying, Frank, because
And Andrew got really mad at me. I undercounted, and he doesn't like that. He doesn't want me to undercount.
Always add 3.
Yeah. The online ratio is 1.8, and I did 1.4, and he got really mad at me. And Dell said, don't even count people online. And the grandma who doesn't come was very disappointed in that.
Listen, we count live simultaneous
She's not a person.
viewers. I think that's a fair metric.
All right. Last one. And I want to hear everyone's thoughts on this, because this is probably the hottest one of them all. If your church coffee is bad, you're basically telling visitors, we don't want you here.
What if they don't like coffee?
Look, if our coffee offends you, wait till you hear about repentance, y'all. It's going to get lit, okay? Now, I'm a big proponent. Like, I love coffee. I'm a little bit of a coffee snob. And I will say that I think if you're going to have coffee, it shouldn't be stuff that tastes like you drank it in the trenches of World War I feel like we live in an era where it's not hard to get accessible coffee. I think that could be a ministry for somebody.
Hey, the coffee might be burnt, but you won't be if you hear the gospel. You know what I'm saying?
There you go. I'm a big fan of having good coffee, but that's more of a personal preference. That's actually, we have people in our church, that's their ministry. They love coffee. So they make sure we get like what's it called where you source it from a good place? You know what I'm talking about? Fair trade coffee that's really good and it supports ministry. So but I'm kind of mood on it. If I go to church that's got bad coffee, just dump some creamer in it. Creamer covers a multitude of sin. Okay.
We were brewing stuff every week, and we had people, and then we had some volunteers change.
You were doing like fancy pour overs.
That takes way too long, but I was not.
Of course he was.
I was not. But
in an apron.
After a while, it was, hey, this is a whole lot of work, and it's costing us a lot of money. And we had like 7 Keurigs around the church because every time someone gets a new Keurig, they drop their old one off at the church, it seems like. And so we switched our back of the worship center coffee station to just Keurigs, and that way we have hot chocolate as an option and whatever else. Plus we have the instant boiler for the tea people as well. And it's made it so much easier so that one volunteer can handle it. And it's not that hard. Now
we have a coffee team at Lakeview, and if someone complains about said coffee, you can join the coffee team and help them make it better. You can volunteer 6 hours a Sunday like they do. I love them with all my heart. They do a great job.
It takes so much time to do coffee really, really well.
They take it seriously. They work hard.
If someone wants to join the coffee team and you tell them no, is that church hurt?
Yes,
could be. But anytime I've got to complain about anything, I'm like, then join the team and help us make it better.
Yes.
Like, I don't want to hear like you're complaining if you think you can make this thing better. So I love what our team's doing. They're killing it.
Now, if you're a visitor and you don't like the coffee, so you don't come back, that's
rocks.
Yeah, for sure.
We have a Keurig too, Andrew. We switched to just a Keurig, and we actually have it on one of those. We got a one of those big like metal with the wood top toolboxes on wheels.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
And it's black.
Fancy.
And it looks really nice, and you can keep all the coffee stuff in it. Like the cups are in it, the sugar, all the stuff is inside of it, and it just lives in our lobby. But we move it around sometimes too, so that worked out great.
I think that's a great idea.
It's good.
So in our fellowship hall, we still have the big brewed. We've got the big crafts of a brewed regular and a brewed decaf.
The pump pots,
but in the worship center, some weeks you'll have 25, 30 people that want coffee. Some weeks you'll have 50 people that want coffee. So if you're making 50 cups of coffee and then pouring out 25, that's a pain.
But 50 cups of Keurigs is pretty expensive too.
That's true. But a lot of people would much rather donate, hey, here's a box of Keurigs, than I'm going to spend 2 hours scrubbing out a coffee carafe.
Cori and I went to a church that didn't have any coffee for guests.
Not cool.
And my wife was so mad. She's like, this church does not believe in hospitality whatsoever because there is no
Maybe
coffee
they had
at
new
all.
carpet because we have people spill coffee at least once.
Maybe
a
there's
week.
no coffee in the Bible, you know?
Maybe. Anyways, after last week, Andrew said that my wife being a vegetarian is on the same level as a pastor sleeping with his wife
That's
in the church
not,
office. So
I
we
did not say
shouldn't
the
care
same
about
level.
what. It wasn't the same guy. He said, "I'm not going to judge your marriage based on what your wife
I'm
eats
just
versus
saying
what
everybody
Andrew
has their own different things in their own marriage.
I don't know, dude. I don't agree.
Okay.
It's so weird.
Cori's made an appearance 2 weeks in a row in this show.
And she doesn't even know because she doesn't listen to this podcast.
That's hurtful.
With that being said, we're grateful that you actually listen to this podcast because you're the only reason why we all wake up super early in the morning to
On
be able to do this
Mondays.
podcast. We don't wake up that early. But we are grateful for you. We hope you check out our Facebook group. Just search for Practically Pastoring. And we want to invite you to our conference, the Practically Pastoring Conference, happening February 9th to the 11th here in Tampa, Florida, Tarpon Springs, Florida, Central Florida. We hope to see you there. We have some really fun speakers and stuff we're going to be doing. And with that being said, we will see you next time. Talk to you guys later.
See ya.
Bye.